Explain the reasons for Bismarck's appointment as Minister-President of Prussia. Otto von Bismarck's appointment as Minister-President of Prussia on 23 September 1862 was one of the most consequential political decisions in 19th-century European history. At a moment of acute constitutional crisis, King Wilhelm I turned to a relatively obscure Junker diplomat whose conservative credentials and ruthless pragmatism offered the only realistic prospect of preserving royal authority against a liberal-dominated Landtag. Far from being a sudden or accidental choice, the appointment reflected the king's desperate need for a minister who would govern without parliamentary consent and who shared his determination to strengthen the Prussian army. This essay argues that Bismarck was appointed primarily to resolve the Prussian constitutional crisis in favor of the monarchy. His personal qualities, political experience and willingness to operate outside constitutional norms made him uniquely suited to the role. Although Bismarck was not initially a German nationalist, his appointment marked the beginning of a pragmatic and ultimately revolutionary approach to unification that subordinated liberal and nationalist ideals to Prussian power. The decision was both a short-term tactical victory for the king and the decisive turning point that enabled the creation of a united Germany under Prussian leadership by 1871. The immediate context for Bismarck's appointment was the Prussian constitutional crisis that had been simmering since 1858. In that year, Wilhelm I, then regent, inherited a liberal majority in the Landtag, elected under the relatively progressive constitution of 1850. The liberals, influenced by the 1848 revolutions, demanded greater parliamentary control over the budget and a more constitutional monarchy. The crisis came to a head over army reform. Wilhelm I, a soldier king, believed that Prussia's military weakness had been exposed by the failures of the 1850s, especially the humiliation of Olmütz in 1850. He proposed doubling the annual intake of conscripts, extending service from 2 to 3 years, and reducing the role of the Landwehr, the bourgeois militia. These reforms required substantial additional funding. In 1860, the Landtag approved the military budget only on condition that the reforms were temporary. When the government attempted to make them permanent, the Liberals refused to pass the 1862 budget. By September 1862, the king faced a stark choice: abandon the army reforms and accept parliamentary supremacy, or find a minister willing to govern without a budget and risk a constitutional coup. Wilhelm I was temperamentally unsuited to compromise. He briefly considered abdication, but his military advisors, especially General Albrecht von Roon and General Edwin von Manteuffel, urged him to appoint Bismarck. Roon famously telegraphed the king, "Bismarck is the only man who can save the situation." Bismarck's background and personality made him the ideal candidate. Born in 1815 into a Pomeranian Junker family, he had entered Prussian service as a diplomat rather than a soldier. He served as ambassador to the German Confederation in Frankfurt, 1851–1859, to Russia, 1859–1862, and briefly to France. These postings gave him unrivaled insight into European diplomacy and the weaknesses of the smaller German states. In Frankfurt, he developed a deep contempt for the liberal nationalist movement and for Austrian dominance of the Confederation. His diplomatic dispatches revealed a hard-headed realist who believed that great powers acted on interest, not sentiment. Bismarck was also a master of political intrigue. He had cultivated friendships with conservative court circles and had impressed the king during earlier meetings. Crucially, he had already demonstrated his willingness to bypass constitutional niceties. In 1859, while ambassador in St. Petersburg, he had written to Roon that if necessary the king should rule by decree and collect taxes without parliamentary approval, the doctrine later known as the gap theory, Lucan theory. This willingness to place royal prerogative above the constitution was exactly what Wilhelm I required in September 1862. Bismarck's attitude towards German unification was pragmatic rather than ideological, and this further commended him to the king. Unlike the liberals of 1848, who dreamed of a unified Germany based on popular sovereignty, Bismarck was a Prussian monarchist first and a German nationalist second. In his famous 1862 speech to the Budget Committee, he declared that the great questions of the day will not be decided by speeches and majority votes, but by blood and iron. He had no romantic attachment to the Frankfurt Parliament or the idea of a greater Germany, including Austria. Instead, he believed that unification, if it occurred at all, must happen under Prussian leadership and on Prussian terms. He told the king in 1862 that his goal was to secure for Prussia the dominant position in northern Germany. This realist, power-political approach aligned perfectly with Wilhelm I's own priorities. The king was not a German nationalist. He was a Hohenzollern who wanted to strengthen Prussia. Bismarck's appointment therefore represented a meeting of minds. The king needed a strong-willed minister who would defend royal authority, while Bismarck saw an opportunity to advance Prussian greatness. Once in power, Bismarck moved swiftly to assert royal authority. He immediately declared that the government would collect taxes and spend money on the army reforms even though the Landtag had not approved the budget, the practical application of the gap theory. When the liberals protested, Bismarck dissolved the Landtag and called new elections, which returned another liberal majority. He responded by tightening press censorship and using the police to harass opposition deputies. These authoritarian tactics shocked liberal opinion, but satisfied the king. Bismarck's actions in the first months of his ministry demonstrated that he was prepared to govern without parliament and to risk a constitutional collision in order to preserve the monarchy's military prerogatives. This ruthless pragmatism was the very quality that had made him the king's choice. Bismarck's attitude towards unification was never fixed or sentimental. It evolved according to Prussian interests. In 1862, he still believed that a close alliance with Austria might be possible. He had no master plan for unification in 1862. What he did have was a clear hierarchy of priorities. First, strengthen the Prussian monarchy and army. Second, exclude Austria from German affairs. Third, achieve unification under Prussian leadership if circumstances permitted. This flexible, opportunistic approach contrasted sharply with the dogmatic nationalism of the liberals. It also explains why the king trusted him. Wilhelm I feared that liberal pressure would lead to a weak federal Germany dominated by parliament. Bismarck offered the king a route to a strong, conservative Prussia that could dominate Germany without surrendering royal power. The appointment was therefore the product of a specific constitutional crisis and Bismarck's unique suitability to resolve it. The crisis had exposed the limitations of the 1850 constitution. The king retained the right to appoint ministers, but parliament controlled the purse. Bismarck's appointment resolved this tension in the king's favor by demonstrating that the government could function without parliamentary approval. In the longer term, it transformed Prussian and German history. Within 8 years, Bismarck had used the strengthened Prussian army to defeat Denmark, 1864, Austria, 1866, and France, 1870-71, creating the German Empire under Prussian leadership. The appointment therefore marked the moment when Prussian conservatism embraced a dynamic foreign policy that harnessed nationalism for monarchical ends. Liberals who had hoped for constitutional progress were marginalized. Unification came not through popular sovereignty, but through blood and iron. In conclusion, Bismarck was appointed minister-president in September 1862 for 3 interconnected reasons. First, the Prussian constitutional crisis had reached an impasse over army reform and the budget. The king required a minister who would defend royal authority against parliamentary liberalism. Second, Bismarck's background as a Junker diplomat, his proven conservative credentials and his willingness to govern without parliamentary consent made him the perfect instrument for the king's purposes. Third, Bismarck's pragmatic and flexible attitude towards German unification, seeing it as a means to enhance Prussian power rather than an end in itself, aligned with Wilhelm I's priorities. The appointment was not the result of a long-term master plan for unification, but a short-term solution to a domestic crisis. Nevertheless, it proved to be the decisive turning point. By placing a ruthless realist at the head of Prussian policy, the king unwittingly enabled the transformation of Germany. Bismarck's appointment therefore illustrates the central theme of 19th-century German history, the triumph of Prussian power politics over liberal and nationalist idealism. The events of 1862-1871 showed that unification would be achieved not by the Frankfurt Parliament of 1848, but by the Prussian state acting under Bismarck's guidance. In that sense, 23 September 1862 was the day the German Empire was born, not in the halls of Frankfurt, but in the corridors of the Berlin Palace.